Alrighty, alrighty. Hello, hello, hello. We are live again. It says some roses are red, and we are. Turn that down. We are testing. Here, there we go. We are live again on Facebook and YouTube. For again, some roses are red. I am John. What's today? Today is March the 4th of 2019, and we're going to cover a couple different things on today's show of Some Roses Are Red. Let's see what we got here. There we go. Get live now. Okay. So today, what we're going to be covering, I know for any of you who tuned in last time, the month of February was communication. So we were talking about communication. We were talking about the value of communication. We were talking about the many different communication styles. We had a couple different guests come in for the month of February to talk about how they navigate interpersonal relationships in regard to communication, and that can be in your workplace or in your home or what have you. Just how we communicate with one another and how we navigate those waters. So for the month of February, the month of March. There we go. The month of March, going to be talking about a different topic. Like I said, I like to cover a different topic if possible each month. And the month of March, we're going to be covering what was our topic for March? We're going to be talking about the value of the collective. Value of the collective. So, let's see. Got a couple people here on Facebook and live. Excuse me. There we go. So, what we will do, what we will do is we'll start with the first question, and of course, as more people come in, we'll go back to that and start it over again. So, first thing we want to talk about in regard to the value of the collective, and I know I had a little side note here. I know we talked a lot about the inner monologue on February's episodes of Some Roses Are Red. We'll touch a little bit still on the inner monologue on this episode as well in March here, just because it plays such a pivotal role on both communication and on the collective as a whole. So we'll touch just a little bit on the inner monologue for the month of March. Again, this is John for Some Roses Are Red, and the month of March we're going to be talking about the value of the collective, in addition to just touching back on the inner monologue, the internal voice that we have, our guidance, our conscience, if you will, just the voice that sometimes tells us, not tells us audibly necessarily, but sometimes the inner voice we would have if we were to push toward a goal, or when we're about to do something that's a little bit scary, the inner voice that might say, well, hold on a second, or oh man, do you think you can do this? So we're going to talk a little bit about the internal monologue in addition to the value of the collective for the month of March here. So let's go to first question here. Collective. We're going to talk about what for the sake of clarity and for the sake of getting us on the same wavelength. We're going to define the collective as we'll call that a group of individuals instrumental in the development, support, and promotion of a common goal or direction of a primary individual. So for this month, we're going to be talking about the collective in regard to community more than anything, because I know there's a different, many different facets of the collective we can talk about. We can talk about the collective in regard to your community, like we're going to do now, or the collective in regard to your workplace, or a collective even in regard to like-minded individuals, what you like to do for hobbies, musicians. Those are a lot of collectives that way. Artists have a lot of collectives, but we'll talk about the collective today in the sense of community. So we're talking about the collective in regard to your immediate, well, not your immediate. We'll say the impactful people around you. We'll call those your collective. So we'll be focusing on those people today. So our first question to get started with is, from your recollection and keeping the above definition of the collective, and remember that definition was a group of individuals instrumental in the development, support, and promotion of a common goal or direction of a primary individual. So, the collective being, we have a singular goal, and this one I said for the primary individual because that primary individual would be you. So, from your recollection and keeping the above definition of the collective in mind, what was your first recollection of a collective you were a part of, and who were they? So, the first, for me personally, um, the first recollection I had of a collective, a group of people that I can recall, not including my family, would be probably musicians, because I remember very early I was a band student and chorus student, so I remember the first collective of like-minded people who were pushing toward a similar goal was the collective of music. So with those people, I developed what do I say I developed? I developed a camaraderie, of course, and we developed a sense of, I won't say family because that sounds kind of cliche, but you have a togetherness in regard to the collective of musicians. So from that very early age, I learned that you can make good friends and you can learn a lot of discipline you can learn there. But for my purposes, a lot of good friendships. You learn a lot of different instruments. You learn a lot of different skills that help you later on in life. You learn to, like I said, you learn to discipline yourself. You learn to be patient. You learn to uh, team building, a lot of team building, because you want to learn your part so you don't mess up whatever collective piece you may be working on. So in regard to music, I learned that at a very very early age that I wanted to make myself as good as possible for the collective, and I imagine they did the same for others in the group as well, because you never wanted to be the person who didn't know the music or who didn't know what piece we were working on for that day. So in regard to the collective, like I said, my first recollection of the collective would have been in regard to music. So, music and musicians, and like I said, being a music student, a band student, I played trumpet for, I want to say from like third or fourth grade all the way to high school, I played trumpet. So, excuse me. So, from that standpoint, I learned a lot about, like I said, the collective, how a community of musicians we learned about, which was very cool because I could appreciate that at an early age. Now, like I said, we weren't including family at that point, but I still knew at that early age the importance of family just for numbers purposes, because it was somebody that you could hang out with in regard to cousins and stuff like that. So the collective in that regard was very important also, but that I couldn't see the fullness of that picture until a little bit later on in life. But in regard to collective I could see in my early life, it was definitely music. I could definitely see the benefit of music. I can see the impact of music. People that you like hanging around with, people that you like to discuss music with, or just discuss general life with. So that was a good recollection, keeping the definition of the collective that we're framing it as above from the previous question in mind. My first recollection was definitely the collective of music, and it says you're part of, and who were they? They were just my peers, pretty much. For the most part, most of the bands I was in was middle school and like I said, elementary and middle school, so you really kind of didn't have a huge age range for musicians. So a lot of the guys were around my age, plus or minus maybe 2 or 3 years, give or take. So people who were definitely in your peer group and your peer circle. Let's see. As I got older, I didn't do band as much. Like I said, I stopped in about the eighth grade, ninth grade, probably, because I know we had a band at my high school, but I didn't want to be a part of that band, so I kind of opted out of that one. So, in regard to the collective, at that point, I think that was around the time where I started to realize, well, not started to realize, but started to get a better illumination. That's a better choice of words of the importance of family. So, in regard to that collective or that community, I learned the benefit of having family, and it was just I think in high school, yeah, because I went to school with my brother was still in high school at the same time I was and my cousin. So we got to hang around. I got to hang around them, and then I had another cousin who we didn't go to the same school, but we were all of my cousins were around in the same age on my mom's side. So we hung out a lot during high school, and you get to get friendships and stuff, and then your friends, you meet your cousin's friends, and they meet your friends, and you hang out with a larger group of people. In addition to whatever neighborhood people you may hang around with rather, or play cousins, so to speak. So you have in regard to that collective later on in life, high school age, after music, was definitely blood family and friends and stuff that you grew up with in the neighborhood. So those were the people that were my collective or my community at that time. Again, not delving too heavy into family, because even as I got older, the benefit of having a strong community vis-a-vis collective in regard to family was even more pronounced as I got older, which was an even cooler thing because it was more illumination. Like I like to think that, excuse me, in regard to life, there's a revelation, and then there are many illuminations of that, which is to say that if you walked into a dark room, you understand that you are in a room, but until you turn the lights on, you don't see the details of the things that are in that room. So I like to equate that as the illumination of the things in that room. So, for the sake of clarity, let's see. Valencia says, I guess for me it was performance in general. At the age of 4, I did traditional dance and performed different places in elementary school. I did traditional Filipino dances as well. I've always been involved in dance through college, and I've always liked how we use it to express our culture and the culture of others. So, Valencia says that her collective or her community, in regard to that collective perspective, would be the dance community at an early age. She said in elementary school, and I imagine uh, throughout school, because I know she did some dance later in life, and even recently she was a choreographer for a couple quinces. So that's pretty cool. But I think the early development of a collective um, in regard to I guess community. I was looking for a better word. In regard to community, is definitely stronger within the arts, or even if you played sports. Because I didn't play sports that much, just because I played sports around my neighborhood, but not organized sports as a kid. I didn't really do that until like high school. So I think if you did sports, that's a good way to build community outside of your blood relations. Or the arts definitely was a big one, because I did a lot of art stuff in regard to music. I didn't do dance. I didn't. We had dance when I went to school. We still had dance as part of our physical education, which was cool. But I wasn't a big fan of dance, so I didn't really vibe or get into the dance part of it. Like I said, the music was predominantly my group of like-minded individuals. I imagine now you get more options with a lot of online gaming and a lot of online social media stuff. So you have a larger collective, and there's a better chance of meeting people who are like-minded or who are interested in the same things as you are. So you can build a collective, vis-a-vis community of sorts around that as well. So I think it's only a plus that you can building community is a dope thing, because it strengthens not just the individual, but it strengthens everybody that's inside of that collective or that community as well. So, uh, let's see. As I got older, what became, I think after high school, and not really too far after that, I remember in 19, I take that back, it was 2001, I think. Yeah, it was 2001. When my grandfather died, a bunch of the family, my mom's dad, a bunch of the family went to the funeral, and we helped clean up the house and everything. I remember specifically, it was my cousin Red who was there, Anthony, and he was talking about they weren't talking about anything specific, but he was talking to my uncle Fred, which is my mom's youngest brother. Uh, Talking to my uncle Fred, and they were just talking about family stuff and growing up and how they would visit Red and his family, his sister and brother would visit my uncle and my mom and my aunt in Chicago, and how they would come down from Chicago. My mom and my aunt and my uncle come down from Chicago to visit my cousin Red Anthony in Milwaukee, and just they were just talking about memories and nothing specific. And just the more he talked about it, he was just talking about how much he loved family and how much he valued family and just his perspective on family in general. And for me, that was huge because I had never. It wasn't that people didn't know the value of family. It was just I had never had a person who I was directly related to speak so what's the word? So, candidly, I guess I would say about family and the value and the love that they had for family. Because on my mom's side, we had tons of family reunions every couple of years. I think the last one was 2018. So every 2 years, we usually try to have one or some type of family get together over the seasons each year. If we don't do the biannual one, so just to hear my cousin Red talk about family and the importance of family to him and what he missed about getting together with family and just how they grew up pretty much similar in the same age range. I think their age range was maybe about 10 years from the oldest to the youngest, 11 years, something like that. So they were still kind of close on my mom's side in regard to cousins and family. So he was just talking about how he enjoyed that, the hanging out with the family and stuff like that. So I thought that's a pretty cool it's a pretty cool example to have in regard to family. So I think I learned a lot from that interaction and a lot from just listening. And I didn't really participate in the conversation, but it sparked something in me to make me think of the value of family. And I think that was one of the first real times that I was interested in learning more about who my family was, not just as people that you're related to, but who they were in regard to being individuals. And I think that was a good exposure to find out who he was as an individual. So I thought that was dope for me. So, again, this is John for Some Roses Are Red, and we're talking today about the value of the collective. And as a sub note, we're talking about changing your inner monologue, because I know if you happen to tune in for February's episode of Some Roses Are Red, the live ones, or even the pre recorded ones, we were talking about the many different styles of communication, how we communicate. And the subtext on that one for the month of February was saying what needs to be said. And it's not so much confrontation, it's talking to the external person, the people in your world, and the internal person with your internal monologue. So talking to yourself, what things do you tell yourself to motivate you to meet your goals, or even to navigate your day on a daily basis? What are your affirmations in the morning, or what are your affirmations when you wind down in the evening? So for the month of March, excuse me, we're going to be talking about the value of the collective. And initially, I had the collective down, but we could probably surmise that, not surmise. We can probably make that more succinct and call it community. The value of the community, and the community we'll call it
Yes.
any person that I have a definition down here that I had for the collective, but we'll say a group of individuals who are
Yes.
instrumental in the development, support, and promotion of a common goal or direction of a primary individual. That's more commonly known as a community. I had it listed as a collective, but we can make those interchangeable for today. We'll call the collective your community, and your community your personal collective. And of course, that can be, like we were talking about before, that could be school, that could be music. Like I said, in my early development, the earliest memory I had besides family of a collective or a community that you were a part of, for me, was music. And it was chorus groups, or it was school choir, or it was band. So I played, like I said, I played trumpet for many years before high school. So, in regard to a collective, it was we had common interests with music, and we were all for one individual goal. So, while I had listed as a primary individual, we could also say that the collective has a goal that is a central goal for most of the membership. And in regard to music, for me, the central goal was to perform a piece of music or on instruments or vocally to the best of our ability. So that's what we're talking about today on Some Roses Are Red. You got Kim and Annie. And Valencia said, I think it's cool how so much of who you are is formed by family. No family is perfect, but I learned so much from small conversations with older relatives, the passing of traditions like our Christmas posadas, or even the way we pass along the joy of celebrating and having parties for many family milestones. I think that's one of the key ones. I think for most people, I would imagine, if you're fortunate, I'll say, the first examples you'll have of a functioning collective, be it for the good or for the bad, a functioning collective will be your family. Hey, Chris, the functioning collective that you'll have will be for family. So I think the first, besides, like I said, besides music, once I want to say high school and things like that got going, you started to notice the strength of having people that you were close to, your blood family, or even people who were like family, your inherited family, we'll call them, the non blood cousins, or your aunts, or whomever played a integral part of making you who you are. So today we're talking about, excuse me, the value of the collective, or the value of the community around you here. And the first question that we had was, from your recollection and keeping the above definition of the collective, remember that definition was a group of individuals instrumental in the development, support, and promotion of a common goal or direction of a primary individual or individuals. We'll add that in there as well. More commonly known as a community. So the first question that we asked today, excuse me, was from your recollection and keeping with the above definition of the collective or community in mind, what was your first recollection of a collective you were part of, and who were they? We had Valencia said that her first recollection, besides family, was dancing. Her when she did dance in elementary school, she said she did traditional dances and also Filipino dances and many other traditional dances during elementary and in I want to say middle school and high school. And I know she's done some choreography for Kingsays. Most recently, I think last year, or yeah, early last year she did. So for her and for many people, the arts are the number one collective that we'll have. And it's unfortunate. I was talking about earlier that we used to have dance in school, like in physical education class or gym class. You would have not too long, maybe a week or a couple days, where you would learn different styles of dance. So you'd learn square dance, or you learn whatever form of dance they had at that time, and you would you'd study that, and you pick a partner, and every day you and your partner would try to learn a new dance. I thought that was pretty cool because it not only breeded, not breeded, it fostered a sense of community because you were all in that together and you know you had to do it. But for some people who actually liked it, people went on to continue to dance, and you know they were able to bring their family to class and stuff like that. So it was a world building thing. So, huh, gotta excuse me, I'm a little sick, so that's why I keep grabbing the towel here. So I'm not trying to cough on night. But we're talking about the collective today on Some Roses Are Red. Again, this is John, and our first question was the first collective that you were a part of that you recognize, and that could be your family or outside of your family, and who were those people? So, let's see here. Got my mom saying that she was always involved, excuse me, always involved in groups in my family church, community, and school. My love for music, service, travel, and the love I share daily comes or came from those who guided me to be the person I am today. I learned to be a leader, teacher, giver, learner from those who have helped develop me. And I think that's another big one that many people have. I know I I probably wasn't as involved in church until probably late middle school or high school, and it was just because I mean, in some social circles, church is definitely one of them. School can be too. Bigger personalities tend to just do bigger things, and it's not that I resented it or had any feelings toward it. I was more than fine with it. My brother had a bigger personality, and I was good, just following and observing. But I think there's a beauty in observing things and learning to be quiet and listen and understand things, because I think I apply that to my life now. I'm a much better listener than I am a speaker, so that when I do speak, I can use the information that I've listened to compile an intelligent conversation or an intelligent rebuttal or even an intelligent response. So, excuse me. So, in regard to the collective, I think much like my mom said, in addition to the arts, in addition to family, I think the another big social group or a big community group would be the church. So, whatever part of the church you're a part of, whatever denomination, I think those are good programs to foster community. They can also foster many other facets, like my mom said, it can foster leadership. It can foster personal integrity. It can, like I said, with music, self discipline, good team building programs. Excuse me, good team building entities like music programs, chorus programs, choir programs, things like that. Definitely can come out of having a strong community or a strong collective. So I think that as I got older, I picked up drums at 25, and I think it wasn't it wasn't it wasn't the same as when I was a kid, but I think it was a much stronger bond because being a kid, I had a choice, but I didn't have 100% freedom to pick what I wanted versus when I picked up music again at a later age. At a later age, it was 100% my decision, 100% the amount of effort I decided to put into it. There was no grades, there was no pros or cons apart from me just loving to do what I do. So I think that the collective that formed later in life with music probably had a lot to do with the initial the initial music programs that I was a part of in elementary school and also in middle school, and also the chorus program. And I think that in addition to that, it definitely helped me with other parts of music that I got into, not just playing other people's music, but in creation of my own music. I think a lot of the skills that you learned being a team player definitely help you when you want to do things as an individual. They definitely are an asset if you're pushing forward in regard to music specifically. So, next question we have here in regard to the collective. Remember, we're talking about the value of the collective or the value of the community. And like I said last month, in regard to communication, the communication is such a broad and expansive topic that we can cover a number of things just talking about communication, and I imagine I'll be revisiting that throughout the year here. Same thing with the collective or community, because there's so many different facets that I like to explore in regard to community, and I, I, I don't mind doing the Facebook Live things, but I like to talk to people to get their feedback. So if you're listening now, you can feel free to type in a question or type in your answer to any of the questions that we asked here, because I definitely like to hear the input of people, because I think that we grow when we find the perspective that may not be identical to ours. When we find a perspective that is something new, a different, as we said earlier, a different illumination on the revelation, if you will, of what is the collective. Because we only know from our perspective, we only know from our vantage point what we have experienced. So if you can get more people to talk about their experiences, I think you can find a better way to navigate the world. So it's just my philosophy. Our second question here in regard to the collective is: how has your family, immediate or extended family, shaped your idea of the importance of the collective? And I know we kind of touched on that just a little bit earlier. My family specifically, I was talking about when my grandfather passed, and we all went to Chicago, where my grandfather was from, to help clean up the house and to make the preparations for the funeral and everything. Just hearing the conversation while we were riding around to run different errands, between my Uncle Fred and my cousin Red Anthony. Just how they were talking about their childhood, and they were talking about because they both were military. My Uncle Fred was a Marine. Uncle Uncle Fred was a Marine, and Red Anthony was Air Force. So, just talking about military service and just talking about how they grew up and different things they got into, and when they would visit each other, and just different stuff. Nothing really monumental for them, but just for me, it was. I had never been a part of like those conversations at that point in my life. Cause I think I was maybe at that time I might have been 20, maybe 20, 21, probably 21, 22, something like that. But I had never been a part of those conversations where two men specifically were just talking about, just talking about growing up, and my cousin Anthony and my uncle as well were talking about just how much they valued family, how much they loved their family, and how much they couldn't wait to get together for family, and how they enjoyed growing up together because, like I was saying earlier, most of my cousins were within about probably 6 years, maybe plus or minus of each other. We're within 6 years. I think all of us fall there, and I think for my Uncle Fred and my mom and my aunts and stuff, I want to say it may not be more than 10, 12 years between most of them. So that's a good sampling for a good peer group because you figure in high school your peers won't be that much older than you generally. I think the high school is 4 years. Elementary, usually, depending on where you are, maybe as much as 8 years. So you talk about if you have a range of about 12 years, that'll give you a good glimpse into the social circle that you will be around. Or the comedians say that if you have enough uncles or aunts or family, you'll learn how to navigate the world. I definitely do agree with that 100%. If you have enough people to help you bounce ideas off of, or even you have enough people to listen to, you'll learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do by watching their examples. So, how's your family, immediate or extended, shaped your idea of the importance of the collective? So for me, that like I said, that just listening in on that conversation between my Uncle Fred and my cousin Anthony, that helped me to because being a person who I don't mind being alone. It's nothing against anybody. I just like being alone. So for me, it gave me a stronger reason to reach out to people who are like-minded people to find out, if you reach out and talk to people, you'll find out some interesting stuff about people, and you don't have to create your own world. So for me, it was cool to be given permission, and I don't think it was to give permission, but to have an example of family for a man to have. So it's a good example, and I said before that in regard to a lot of men, if you don't grow up with a father in the home, so to speak, and or a day-to-day male figure, you make these archetypes. Or if you don't have a strong day-to-day male figure, you make these archetypes out of the things that are valuable in your community, the people who are respected for one reason or another, the people who you admire for one reason or another, and you make these archetypes. So I think that in that regard, that conversation between my uncle and my cousin helped to build this archetype of the type of man that I think that's a good way to be. I want to be a man who was free to love his family and not have, you know, any qualms about it. To love the people that he loves, and to have good articulation about the reasons why he loved those people, and to share joy with people. So my cousin Christina says, my involvement in church and school and community groups helped to cultivate my passion for helping people. It also helped me to learn from individuals who had different background experiences. Now, what's funny about that, I remember much like my brother and a lot of my family, my cousin Christina, very, very personable. My grandmother and pretty much everybody in my family, with the exception of maybe my grandfather. And even he was personable to some degree in certain circles. But I remember specifically my cousin Christina, we went to high school together. We were in the same, actually, it was a bunch of us. It was my cousin Erica. My brother was in high school at the same time. My cousin Christina, pretty much all of us actually. So we were in that age range. But what I remember was it had to be junior year of high school, or junior year or senior year of high school. and it was picture day for like the different groups or the choirs and stuff. And I think my cousin Chris was in like out of maybe what 20, 30 groups. She might have been in like 25 of them. She was in the Asian American group. She was in the gospel choir. She was in the Hmong group. She was in the Latinos for Change group. She was in the Students Against Drunk Driving. Like every group you can imagine. I thought that was cool because I'm like, I wasn't gonna join the groups, but I mean, she did it just to meet people, and I thought it was pretty cool. And much to like what you said here, when you introduce yourself to different groups and to different people, you get to have different experiences from their vantage point, and you get to see a different perspective on not just the world, but on people individual. And you learn that across the world, people are not that different, and you learn that across the world, people are kind of similar to you as well. Like I said, what I miss the most about our family is that we were very diverse with very various cultures. Definitely, definitely. I don't think that in regard to my mom's side, because I had the most interaction with them, I don't think that we were ever. It was never like a foreign thing to meet somebody from another country and just find out about them, just ask them questions like, "Oh, where are you from? And what do y'all eat?" And, "Oh man, that's cool. Like we do this, y'all do that." So it was a very open thing, and I think that may have something to do with could be a church thing, it could
Hi.
be social thing. Hey Eli,
Hi.
whatever do you? so, so I think you if you make yourself open to people, I think you definitely like Christina said, you definitely have a broader sense of the world. And in addition to that, I know a good majority of my family in Valencia as well. Probably not the guys in my family as much, but more the women. They do a lot of traveling, and when you travel, I think that definitely opens your mind and it opens your perspective because you get to see a bunch of different ways that people are navigating this life. So you get to see a bunch of different traditions, you get to see a bunch of different perspectives on similar things. So perspectives on how you raise your children, or types of religion, or types of food or education. You get to see so many different things just by experience by exposing yourself to different groups and different peoples here. Valencia said my family owned their
You want
restaurant.
to
Hey
eat?
Eli, my family owned their restaurant business growing up. We always had a stand at every year at every Mexican fiesta and sold a variety of dishes and drinks. From the selling of the food to food prep, taking orders, and serving the food, it was all done by family. The younger cousins worked at the front windows, and my mom and my aunts made the food. We all worked together for a 3 day weekend to serve hundreds of people and had fun while doing it. This was the first time I really say my family working together to accomplish a big goal. I think that would have been like super cool if we had like a family project or something. In regard to my mom's side, we got together for tons of stuff. So even though we didn't have a project necessarily like the restaurant there, we definitely got together for church functions. Was a big one for the people who lived in state. A lot of church functions, a lot of socializing in terms of Christmas parties, picnics and stuff like that. We always got together, or like I said, since we were kind of the same age, we would get together for just hanging out because we were.
I'm here with the train on
You what?
Yeah.
Oh boy, you silly. So, so we got to hang out just because we were similar in age range. So it was we go bowling. I remember we did that a lot, and that was pretty much all through like elementary up to high school, and then even after high school, I know me, Erica, my cousin Erica, Christina went, Angie went a couple times. Went to Wisconsin Dells just to hang out because I mean, if you enjoy the people that you're hanging out with, and those people are also family, it's a double plus because you get to share your collective, and you get to again learn about different experiences because even though you're family, doesn't mean that you live the same lives, and you get to find out more stuff about people that you're close to, and I think that's cool in regard to getting to experience different vantage points, different perspectives from people. Excuse me. So, we're still talking about the value of the collective, and the value of the collective, we could also say the value of community. And we talked about community being music community when you're a kid or growing up, the church community we also talked about, and That's a huge community. Both of those are. We also
By
talked
the
about
way,
once you talked about the family restaurant, which I think is very cool because I like to eat. So that would have been a plus for me. It probably would have been a 400 pound kid. So I guess that's a good thing we didn't have a family restaurant. But talked about family restaurants and just getting together as a family. What's up, buddy, man?
wait,
Hey,
yeah.
keep running around. So we're still talking about the value of the collective here. Let's get to our next question here. Or did I finish that one? Because we talked about the how has your family, immediate or extended, shaped your idea of the importance of the collective. I will also say that's another one. That I know we talked about my direct family shaping the importance of the collective, but when you have a family that you get along with and you can socialize with and just hang out with, and you get around other people who don't have that, that's definitely that shapes my perception. That also helped because you would get around friends who don't talk to their grandmother. Or I had a friend. She was my friend, but she was like an associate. But she could not stand her grandmother, and the reason why is because her grandmother would steal money from her mom and her, and that was like completely foreign to me to have somebody who's supposed to be part of this community and this collective who could be so like treacherous. And it just said her grandmother would routinely like steal stuff from the house or steal money and stuff. And you could almost understand it if she had a drug problem, but no, she just liked to steal. So I'm like, that would have been like a complete bug out for me to have my grandmother, either one, my dad's mom or my mom's mom, be a thief like that, because they were 100%, 200%, or even more against stealing. That you want to get in trouble, that's a good way to do that. Let them catch you stealing or find out something that you did. You had some property that wasn't yours. That's a big problem. So I think that in regard to the importance of the collective for my immediate family and my extended family, just going hanging out with friends and stuff, you get to see the value of having good communication and having good rapport with your family when you happen to come across people who don't necessarily have that. Or, like my cousin Chris was saying, in regard to joining the other groups, when you talk to people from different countries who haven't had the opportunity, for me, it mostly came in my later life. When you talk to people from different countries who don't have the opportunity to go back and visit relatives for whatever reason, or have relatives come here, you get to see just how fortunate you are to have the collective in the manner that you do, or the community that you have in the manner that you do in regard to your family. So I think that that's a fantastic thing to consider. Hey Ty, how you doing there? So we're talking about the value of the collective, and the collective we're calling the community around you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be blood family, because we were talking about a collective earlier of musicians being kind of instrumental younger in life. I know almost everybody joined the band or some type of choral group or kids choir somewhere at school, or if you went to a church or something, you probably joined it there. Or even a church as a big a collective or a big community for people to strengthen people and to uplift people as well. So we talked about the value of the collective and the people that shape your idea of what the collective is, and your very first memory of what your very first memory of what you can, I guess, describe as a collective or as community. So for me, like I said, it was music was the number one thing that kind of shaped my early view of community. But as I got older, we talked about the value of family. When you have a good family, you can definitely understand, or if you have a large family, that helps more. You can understand the value of having people that you can vibe with or get along with in regard to the collective or the community. Because I think if you build a strong enough community, or if you have enough family that is strong or not strong, you can definitely get some ideas of what you want for your life and what you do not want for your life. So I think the lessons and the anti lessons, if you will, are definitely there if you have a big enough family, or if you have enough exposure to family, not just your own extended family, or your not just your own family, comma, and extended family. So the last question we were on was, how's your family immediately, immediate or extended, shaped your idea of the importance of the collective? And I think definitely, if you have family that you get along with for many, many years, as you grow up, you see the value of those people. You see that not just because they're their relatives, but even their insight as individuals is definitely helpful. I know I talked about my cousin Anthony and my uncle definitely helped me just as a man, not even as, a nephew or a younger cousin, but just as a man, because you have to navigate this world somehow. And if you can have people who are like you in one way or the other, it definitely helps to see a positive example of what they did to overcome or what they did to navigate different social scenarios or even just different scenarios in general. So, hearing them talk about the importance of family and the value of family definitely helped me center myself and consider like what is important to you in regard to family. So I definitely took their example and looked into it and wanted to find out more about what do I like about family, what do I want to have for a family. And I think that in doing so, I think you learn what things are important, especially as you get older and you start your own family. For me, I learned what things I did want in regard to a family and what I didn't want. And for me, growing up in terms of collective, if I had to narrow that down to my small collective, my immediate family, we never really had a lot of arguments. I'm speaking just about myself and my mother. My brother was a different thing. So in regard to my immediate family, we I learned that you can express yourself in a manner that you can be received, and you can also receive someone else's expression. I think there was a quote that I got. I forget who it's from, but it was saying that the art. What did it say? It's something about to express yourself. Oh, tact. They were saying what tact is. TACT. Tact is the art of making a point without making an enemy, and I think that that's very good. That if you have enough family, you learn from one way or the other by somebody popping you, or you learn just out of mutual respect. You learn how to express yourself without making enemies, because you want to have yourself be heard. You don't necessarily want to have a fight. Nobody wants to have a fight. You want to be heard and you want to be understood. So I think that goes both ways. So having a family where you can listen and talk definitely helps that. So if you have a collective where that's a part of the interactions of that collective, that's definitely a plus that you can take with you throughout the rest of your life. So our next question here, in what ways has your collective shaped your perception of world and your perception of yourself, the collective? For me, I'm very, very, very fortunate in that I don't recall, not saying it didn't happen, but I don't recall anybody being, made to feel negative about like something they were pursuing. Like if somebody, in regard to my family, if somebody was, pushing to go to school, there was always support for that. If you wanted to try something new, there was always support for that. Now, of course, people will make jokes, but it was never malicious or vindictive. It was always, with, even if, with a joke, but with support with it. Because I've never felt, in regard to my family, I never felt unsupported at all with anything, even if it wasn't, someone directly saying we believe in you. I never felt that
You
anybody.
wanna play?
Not right now, but it will play later.
Okay.
I never felt that there was no support for whatever I wanted to do, and that's me not even being a vocal person. So in regard to the people who are probably more vocal, I can imagine that there was support, and if they couldn't support you one way, they would lead you to someone who could definitely help you out in regard to whatever you were pursuing. So I think that in what ways has the collective shaped my perception of myself? In regard to my collective or my community, it definitely helped me to understand that you can be an asset to someone and you can be a support to someone, even if it's not financial. You can definitely be a support with prayers, or you can be a support with time, or you can be a support with just a thumbs up. Even something as simple as a thumbs up to say, "Hey, if you came and said you want to be an astronaut, they'll give you a thumbs up." Now, if there was some doubts about it, they may discuss it amongst themselves or whatever. Hey, so be it. But in regard to you pushing toward whatever you're pushing toward, it was definitely thumbs up all the way. So that's in regard to myself. in regards to my perception of the world, same thing there. You can definitely be a beacon of light to people. If you want
You want to
people,
watch a movie?
not watch a movie, yeah, I'll come
Okay.
get you when I want to watch a movie. Okay, cool. So, in regard to being a beacon of light to other people, I think that part of the reason that I'm doing the podcast, or even part of the reason that I spoke to the people that I spoke to, was because I feel that many people don't have enough support or enough what's the word, encouragement. That's a better word. They don't have enough encouragement. So it's not that I don't feel that people are without goals or without passion or without dreams. I think that going through this life can definitely leave you at a point where you may or may not feel empowered enough to do the thing that you want to do. So you may feel like you can't do, I can't push for this goal because I don't have the time, or I don't have the money, or I don't have the resources, or I didn't do this first, or I didn't do that first. I think that the collective of my community, what I learned from that was you can still support people right where they are until they can get to the point where they want to be. And Ty says that in regard to the collective, holidays for me was such a big deal in my family. It was always assumed we would be together for the big major holidays and the expansion of family to include very close friends that became family. I agree with that as well. Reminded me that it wasn't about me as an individual, it was about building relationships within the family collective. Oh, yeah, definitely. Valencia agreed. I definitely agree. Family has many lessons and anti lessons. Oh, yeah. So I think that in regard to what Ty said, and if you didn't get a chance to check out the podcast that we did with Ty and Joan, you should definitely check it out. She talked about the cookie exchange, and I never been to the cookie exchange, but just from the pictures and how they would talk about it, or on videos or on Facebook and stuff, you can definitely see it was a bonding thing. And even with that, something like that can be very affirming, even if you doing or if you're doing something as simple as cooking, just that people are supporting you. If you have your team, people are supporting you in the cookie exchange. It transfers to other things. So even if it's something that you don't want to do as a career, or as a lifelong thing, you can support someone. You can be an asset to someone, and that's in regard to what we're talking about with the way the collective has shaped yourself and your perception of the world. I think that in regard to Ty talking about the holidays and talking about me talking about the cookie exchange, these times that you can get together with your collective or with your community, they definitely build you up for the next step. Because I can recall, and I imagine everybody else has had a moment like this. If you're feeling down about something else and you don't necessarily want to talk about it, just getting around people who are supportive about something else, something as simple as making cookies, or something as simple as if you're doing hair or something as simple as food, you can definitely feel that love and that support, and it can help you with the thing that you may not be talking about specifically. Because I can recall many times where not just a conversation with my uncle and my cousin, but just when you're just around older family and they're just talking about different things, and you can
The
get empowered
popsicles
by that.
good.
Because for me,
The
the key thing
popsicles
about that
good.
was, what's that, buddy?
The popsicles good.
Yep, the popsicle is good. Thank you. Um, when you're around people that are like you by blood, or like you by whatever way you find similarities with these people, I think that when you see these people go through adversity, or you see these people conquer things that were very difficult for them, it definitely inspires you. And if these people are supportive of you as well, not even knowing whatever issue may be, something that you're pursuing or something that you're having doubts about, I think it definitely adds value to what is the collective. Because when you can see people succeed who look like you and who aren't so different from you, it definitely empowers you to push forward. I know it does for me, to see people who are similar to me in gender or whatever have you. Seeing people succeed, it definitely helps me, and if I can talk to those people, it helps even more. So that's one way the collective has shaped my collective, or my community has shaped my perception of myself. And when I say community in this regard, I'm speaking about my family as a community. Now, if I had to say in regard to music, that's a little bit different one. I think that was in regard to music. When I started playing drums as an adult, that was something different. Because for me, the encouragement was just wanting to be a part of, you know, different types of music, different things that guys were doing, or different things that people were trying, especially in like my mom was talking about church. It definitely helped to play at church because I knew I could get better, but I knew that the only way I was going to get better was if I played. I had to play regularly. I had to play often. So one of the few places that you can get a gig as a starting musician or a beginning musician at whatever age is going to be your local church because they'll be more supportive than a lot of other places will, depending on the size of your church. Of course, if you're at some mega church, that may not be feasible. But if you can get yourself in front of, for this example, if you can get yourself in front of a small enough population that can support your growth, like that church did for me, or a small enough organization of people that can help you to grow, not necessarily toward what you want to do, but if you can find a safe haven where you can develop yourself and where you can grow and where you can work out the weakness and where you can build strength, it definitely helps you. So in regard to a collective or a community, I think that those places are good as well. And if you happen to listen to the podcast that I had with Daryl and his fiance Andrea, they were talking about his workout facility, Fast Forward Fitness, 9730 West Greenfield Avenue. So if you happen to check that out, he's a very motivational and positive person. But even before he got his location, Fast Forward Fitness now, 9730 West Greenfield Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or West Dallas, Wisconsin. Sorry. Before he got
You
that,
can't hear me.
at his yes, buddy,
You can't hear me in the phone.
I can hear you. Thank you.
No,
So
no, no.
before he got his current location, he was very driven to help people. So even at the smaller location he had initially, he was helping people and empowering people to believe in themselves. Because I on the episode with Daryl and Andrea, I talked about a friend of mine who is a music teacher, and he said that the only thing that he really does as a music teacher, with all the theory that he knows and all the skills that he learned in becoming a music teacher, the one thing that he learned and the thing that he tries the hardest at is to uh, help people learn how to practice. He said, that's all I do. I teach people how to practice. What they do with that information is entirely up to them. And I like that perspective because it's kind of like the old cliche, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So you can find the people to give you the skills and to empower you and to support you, but you still have to take that action here. So mom says, we try to support with love, financially, and prayers, and never let each other down. Yep, I can agree with that. My dad says, congratulations on stepping out and following your dreams. The benefits of networking is very valuable both with and without family. I would agree 100%. I know for me, as a person who never trust, I'm a very untrusting person. So say what you will about that. And it's not because, well, untrusting is weird because that makes it seem like I think everybody is suspect. I trust people to do what I've seen them do before. So it's difficult for me to give people leeway to try new things, we'll say. So in regard to the community that's not family, I'm more apt to put them in a perspective where even if they were to fail, that it wouldn't impact me directly. So if I invite outside people in, it's just for a little section of stuff. So in regard to community, I guess I could do a little bit better in, as Daryl said and Andrea in their podcast, weeding my garden so you can only have the community that you're empowered. But yes, buddy.
You mean Cartoon Network?
You watching Cartoon Network?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the update. So, in regard to the collective, there we go. There he is. So in regard to in regard to the collective, and we're talking about the perception of yourself and your perception of the world, you can definitely see how the collective or community, I'm probably going to change that for the next episode. In regard to community, you can definitely see how it can build you and it can get you started on a good path to achieve other things, even if it's not a one-to-one, about a specific topic. Just having that support system and having a strong foundation, whatever it may be, family or your faith or whatever it may be, having a strong foundation to launch from is definitely an invaluable thing. And I guess the last question that we have here, because we're right at 8 o'clock here, so I'll ask this last question and we'll call it after that one. In what ways has the collective ideology been? Oh, that's too big of a question to end on here. So I'll ask it, and I'll keep it real concise. But in what ways has the collective ideology been used for
Let me tell
or
you a
against a
joke.
people or an individual? What's up, buddy?
Why does the banana cross the road?
Why did the banana cross the road? Tell me why.
Because it hit the car.
Because it hit the car. That is hilarious. The banana crossed the road because it hit the car. Okay, so in what ways has the collective ideology been used for or against a people or an individual? I may not even answer that one just because it's so big. But the reason I was thinking about that one is I was watching a show called what's it called, Dangerous Laughter or something like that on Netflix, or Laughter in Dangerous Places, and it was talking about different places where people were doing comedy and they were just discussing the things that were going on, and in regard to groups like terror organizations, stuff like that. But it was definitely a lot to do with the collective or a collective mindset or their community of people who were fighting for different things. So we'll pick up probably on that one, but if you want to jot that down, I won't go too far into it because it's so many different facets of it that it'd be another couple hours here. So, in what ways has the collective ideology been used for or against a people or an individual that you have seen? Because that kind of narrows it down. Because if I said in what ways, you can name a billion of those, but that you have seen in your immediate life would be the caveat on that one. So I'm going to put a pin in that question. Bang. And there we go. Yeah, that's Eli. So I thank you again for checking us out at Some Roses Are Red every first and third Monday of each month. We'll be doing Facebook Live, and of course, if you go over to YouTube Live to the Some Roses Are Red channel, we're also broadcasting live simulcast. Bang bang. YouTube Live and Facebook Live at the same time every first and third Monday of the month. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. I know we're a little bit over now, but 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Some Roses Are Red, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and every what is that, second and fourth, and probably this month has 5 Mondays, so we'll see what we do for the fifth one. But we also have the recorded episodes. The next episode coming up will be next Monday, which will be was that the 11th? Yes, that's the 11th. So next Monday, the 11th. Our guest for the recorded episode will be Dr. Alice Johnson from Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, I believe. She'll be our guest, and we'll be discussing the value of the collective or community with her as well. That'll be Dr. Alice Johnson on March the 11th, and that'll be posted at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, right on the YouTube page. The YouTube page is under got nasal stuff. Some Roses Are Red on YouTube, and we'll be broadcasting on, like I said, the first and third Mondays at 7 p.m. That'll be the live broadcast. Every other Monday that's not a live broadcast, we'll be posting at 8 a.m. on YouTube Live, or also anywhere where you get your podcast. You can go to Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, Castbox, anywhere you get a podcast. You should be able to find Some Roses Are Red there. You can catch all the previous episodes or even the new ones that air Mondays at 8. And I guess, unless Eli comes back in here, which he won't, that'll be the end of the program today. I thank you very much. For the month of March, we'll still be talking about the value of the collective or the value of the community for your personal life and for those around you. So I thank you very much for tuning in, and you guys have a wonderful evening.